Hello, my name is Yianni. I'm a financial planner at OzPlan Financial Services in Mitcham. Today we're going to talk about compound interest, what you need to know about it, and why it is so powerful. Quick disclaimer, I don't know you, you don't know me. The information we're presenting here is general information only, not considered financial advice. I don't know your objectives, situation, or needs. Please always consult a licensed financial professional before you make any decisions on any investment or life-changing decisions. Now, what is compound interest? Well, essentially, compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world in finance. We need compound interest to grow our wealth over time along with contributions. So why a lot of people invest and what the whole reason of superannuation is essentially to allow your wealth to build over time with contributions as well as with the compound interest component. So the compound interest component is essentially interest on both the principal and the accumulated interest of previous periods. So it's your wealth growing from A, regular contributions, and B, the growth on those regular contributions and interest. Now, different products offer, different compounding exposure. So, for example, we've got stocks which are much riskier. They offer daily compounding benefits because the stock market is it's traded on a daily basis, so Monday to Friday, which means your share portfolio can move on a daily basis. That exposes you to daily compounding or daily interest movements. Whereas you've got high interest savings accounts, which are much more conservative, and they typically offer monthly compounding as you're paid interest monthly with those sorts of products. Now, a really cool tool that you could use to sort of get an idea or a grasp of how compound interest works is on the moneysmart.gov.au website. So it's an Australian government website where it has a number of different resources, and there you'll see a compound interest calculator tool, and you're able to input initial deposits, regular deposits, deposit frequency, compounding, number of years, and also the annual interest rate that you'd be earning. So it's a really cool tool just to have a play around with to get a grasp of how compound interest works. Now, how are we able to maximize the compound interest phenomena and make it work harder for you? Well, look, there are many factors which can impact your compounding, but really the first thing that we've got to do is understand the snowball effect. So essentially, the longer you have the money invested, the harder the compounding works for you. Okay, so let's just assume you've got a share portfolio and you're invested over 10, 20, 30, 40 year period. The longer you're invested, the quicker your money builds every year up to a point. So what do I mean by that? The first 5 to 10 years, your money is building very slowly. However, after the 10-year mark, typically speaking, your wealth accelerates through the power of compounding as you've got a much greater principal that the interest is working on. So the start is very slow, and that's where you typically hear your first 100,000 is the hardest 100,000 you'll ever earn, and that's because at the start, compounding is working on a very small principal. Whereas over time, when you've built your principal up, compounding is making it much easier for yourself to see your balance grow. And that's where we see that huge acceleration. So your first 100,000 may take 10 years. After you've hit your 100,000, your next 100,000 may take 5 years, for example. So it really accelerates your wealth building. And that's why it's really important that we get and accumulate wealth as soon as we can and as early as we can, because then it makes the money work harder for you. Now, time in the market is key. So we really need, to benefit from compounding, be investing over very long periods of time. So think 10 years plus, okay? And ideally, you're limiting the withdrawal of your capital, especially when it's early on in your investment career. We need that capital to be working for you. Now, down the track, 10, 15, 20 years down the track, when you've built a sizable portfolio, then withdrawing capital or interest on the capital lessens the impact on your wealth accumulation journey. So what I wanted to show was a difference between investing over 5 years versus 10 years. So what we've done in this model is we've assumed you're starting off with $1,000 and you're investing $500 every month for 5 years with a return of 7% per annum, and we're assuming that you're reinvesting your earnings. Now what happens is essentially, because it's such a short period of time, 5 years, the vast majority of the growth in our portfolio is through regular deposits. Okay, so we've deposited $30,000 through regular deposits with a $1,000 initial deposit, and we've only returned about $5,000 in interest, okay, over the 5-year period. Now, if we compare someone that's been investing for 10 years with the same assumptions, their regular deposits equated to about $60,000 plus the $1,000 initial deposit, but their interest is now $23,866. So essentially, the interest, as you can see, is accelerating. We're earning a lot more interest further down the track rather than earlier on, and that's because we've got a much greater principal, a higher balance where the compounding can work against. So if you compare, so previously we had about $4,000 worth of interest over 5 years. Now you've added an extra 5 years and you've got an additional $18,000 worth of interest. As you can see, there's an acceleration of the compounding or the interest that you're earning the longer we're invested. So ideally we need to build good habits to really benefit from the compounding. So first we've got to build and maintain a written budget. Now I always tell clients a written budget's better than one that's just in your head. You've got to follow something that's written, and it's much easier to hold yourself accountable when you see it on paper or in an Excel spreadsheet. So it's critical that we have a budget to understand exactly what are our needs and what are our wants. And from there we can break down what the needs and wants are and determine, okay, well, how much are we actually putting aside for our future? Is this enough? Is $10,000 a year enough that we're putting aside for our future? And it really depends on what your specific goals and objectives are, how late or early you are in your sort of retirement piece. And from there you can build out and really work around, okay, well, how much should we realistically be setting aside? Now, from there, typically what I like doing is using ratios. So ratios allow me to remain sort of within my guide rails, especially, for example, you may be getting a promotion at work and all that. It's just easier to stick to ratios. So you may say, argument's sake, that you want to save 20% of your gross salary. So that's a ratio that you will stick with for the next 10, 20 years, for example, unless obviously there is a change to your circumstances. And then you can say, okay, well, the remaining amounts, we've covered our needs, 20% is going towards our future, the rest we can spend without any regrets. And that's really the habit that I want to build with my clients, is we want to enjoy our money at the same time as also build our money. All right, and consistency is key. So it's got to be realistic. We've got to set goals that we can attain, and that then really facilitates that consistent long-term wealth accumulation journey for you. Now, moneysmart.gov.au has some really good free resources, so I recommend that as a good starting point to sort of build your knowledge and understanding of budgeting, what compounding is, investing and all that. It's a really great anchor to really build that knowledge. Now, things don't go to plan. Life happens. So life's unpredictable. You never know what could come tomorrow. And that's really what the problem is with these projections and tools. So always use these tools and projections and treat them with a grain of salt, because it's never going to be perfect. I mean, especially when we're modeling past 5 years, there are many variables which we've got to consider or may not even consider that can pop up and really alter how the projections turn out. So look, things like investment returns, which vary depending on what you're investing in. So let's just say, argument's sake, you're investing in shares. Shares are never going to grow at just 7% per annum, for example. There's going to be periods where there's negative returns, positive returns. It's all an up and down sort of game. And that's really what we need to understand with this, is we're simplifying the whole process by just spitting out a 7% return per annum. It's never going to be like that. You've also got time horizons. So time horizons can change, life happens, retirement may not be 10 years away, it could be 15 years away, it could be 5 years away. Look, people's circumstances are always changing, so we've really got to keep that in mind too. And inheritances come, especially now, there's a huge wealth transfer that's occurring. A lot of my clients are people that are coming with, $5, $6, $7, $1 million, of inheritance through parents or grandparents that they're wanting to invest, and that really accelerates the wealth building journey and the power of compounding. So starting off with a bigger principle obviously makes things a lot easier for you. So that, along with catastrophic events like illness and death, can really impact the accuracy of these assumptions and tools. So what we do with our clients is we build cash flow models, which we try build in a lot of different variables to sort of make them a bit more realistic. But again, they're always only going to be assumptions and projections, and you can never rely on those. So thank you for sticking around. Hopefully that made a bit of sense as to why compounding is so important and how you can use it in your wealth building journey. If you've got any questions, always feel free to give us a call or send me an email. Thank you.